Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is mindset, and the title is Maintaining a Positive Mindset Through Adversity. So recently, a client of mine has been relearning how to squat. So they learned how to squat from someone else, and they got up to a 275-ish pound PR. It was not really parallel. It was very questionable form. Tons and tons and tons of lower back, and did not develop their physique in a positive way. It just made them have a really thick lower back, really rounded upper back, and thin legs. So that technique was not kind of beneficial for aesthetics, but it also wasn't beneficial for strength, and they were having a lot of hip and leg pain associated with that heavy squat. So I had helped them get ready for like a powerlifting meet, which involves a 1 rep max in their squat. So I believe we did our first meet. They were mixing in the cues that I was giving them and our training that we were having once every other week with their other regular style of training, which happened to be CrossFit at the time. So the unfortunate part was once every 2 weeks I was reinforcing good form. However, the other 13 days they were kind of just using whatever form they needed to get the weight moved, because that was the focus that was being placed on them on those days at their other kind of training, was just move weight, move weight, move weight. The technique and the quality didn't really matter as much, and it ended up leading to really bad technique, and it led to the injuries. So what we did was we eventually kind of started figuring out, okay, if you want to get rid of this hip pain, if you want to find a healthier way to squat long term and develop your aesthetics in the direction that you would like them to go in, we're going to have to make some changes. So we had to get rid of the other style of training, and they had to train much more controlled and paying better attention to the quality of their technique. This caused them at first to, what they perceived, lose a lot of strength. And really what that was I didn't allow them to squat with horrible form. The only muscles they had strong were the ones associated with horrible form. So their 1 rep max went from a 275, which looked like crap and was barely parallel, but in their head was 275, down to something like maybe 95 pounds that could be done with actual correct form without any body compensations in the right pathway. So a straight up and down bar way, like bar pathway. So super discouraged, really felt like it was just going to make them weaker. So I talked them into it. It took a while, but they eventually just kind of succumbed to the fact that if they kept going the road they were going on, they weren't getting any new PRs, they weren't getting stronger, they were just getting more and more hurt. So they had to try something new, because the same thing was getting worse and worse. So I can understand if the same thing stayed the same, they might be able to somewhat convince themselves, but if the same thing was getting worse, then they knew they had to make a change, even if that change was scary. Well, recently, they've kind of spent about 3-4 months maybe doing it the way that I wanted them to do it, and now they're back up to a 250-pound squat in much better form without pain. So it's getting there. Now, they said along the way it was very emotionally stressful to feel themselves getting weaker. And this client associated some of the concern over with like age, like they're not old by any means, but they're older. And they were afraid if they didn't keep putting heavy weight on their back that they were going to lose their strength and they'd never be able to gain it back. There's also just kind of like they had put a lot of work into that 275, and that 275 meant a lot to them. So to give that up was a big deal. So there's a lot of emotional stress during this kind of relearning how to move correctly process. And that same emotional stress can happen when somebody's working through an injury. So if you're working through an injury or during the recovery of an injury, it can become very emotionally stressful, not feeling like you're capable of doing your best. So how do we maintain a positive mindset when we're facing adversity such as an injury or relearning technique? It can be difficult. However, in today's podcast, I want to give you 5 tips on how you can kind of maintain a more positive mindset, or at least have the chance to, while you're working through those processes. So one thing was I told my current client who's having trouble like with the squat who I just explained, I told her about a past clients who had similar issues but came out to be successful. So one in particular was a female. She was squatting 275 pounds, what do you know? And it was tons of pain. So she had pain when she would squat 275 and it hurt her hip. So we retooled her squat, taught her how to squat again without any pain. And in 9 months later, she was able to squat over 300 pounds without any pain at all. So it did take her 9 months to be able to surpass her old PR, but 9 months in the scope of the rest of your life is not a very long time. So people have done it. So that's going to be one of our tips we'll say at the end, is finding and learning other people's stories, finding other people to join in your journey. So first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I've mentioned in past podcasts, I've had various injuries. I was anorexic for 3 years when I was a teenager. I had really thin bone frame. I had really kind of like underdeveloped connective tissues. And I've had a sleeping issue my entire life to where I don't get very good quality of sleep. And by very good quality of sleep, I mean like maybe half the quality of sleep. So I've actually had tests done and da-da-da-da-da. So my recovery is pretty garbage. However, I love to train, so I still train 5 to 7 days a week. So I just have had to learn over time how to control that and find the right degree of stress that my body can still recover from and grow. Now, don't feel too bad for me. So I started lifting weights at 16. And when I graduated high school at 18, I was a pudgy, kind of fat, soft 165, and I'm now 280 pounds with lower body fat percentage than I was at 165. So I've gained over 100 pounds of body weight and actually leaner body fat percentage wise. I've also gotten insanely stronger. So when I graduated high school, I couldn't bench 225. My best bench right now is 430. Couldn't squat 315. My best squat's 600. And I could deadlift maybe 315. And my best deadlift now is 700. So I've gotten a lot stronger, gotten a lot bigger. So despite of all that bull crap about anorexia and bones and sleep and all that stuff, I'm too damn stubborn to let that stuff hold me back. So I still made a ton of progress. So I've had to restart my bench press actually 3 times in my life. Twice was associated with breaking my collarbones in a surgery, and one was because I tore my pec really badly and had to kind of relearn how to relearn how to bench around that. So I've restarted my bench press 3 times in my life, where I forget exactly the first time where I was at weight-wise, but I was up to like maybe 185 to 200, broke my collarbone, had to go back down to the bar. The second time, I had gotten up to, I think, 335, 345, somewhere around there. I broke my collarbone again, had to get surgery on it, and had to restart again at the bar. The third time, I was back up to 300s, tore my pec really bad, and had to again restart at the bar. But I've gotten over those old PRs to now be benching over 400 pounds. So even though I've had to restart my bench 3 times in my life, I'm still on the positive end. I've actually made improvements past when I had each of those injuries. I've also had a slipped disc in my back. So if you look at an x-ray of my back, the bones, the vertebrae go like straight down. Then there's one kicked off to the left, kind of in my lumbar spine. And that was due to just some dumb deadlift competition I was doing with some friends, where I tried really heavy weight, 440 pounds for 16 reps. And on the 16th one, something happened in my back. So no bueno. Wasn't good. So I had back pain for every single day for 14 months, and that included plantar fasciitis pain to the point where I would be so exhausted after I'd train my clients. I would finish my last client from maybe like 6 to 7 at night. I would walk into my office, lay on the floor at 7:10, and not wake up till about 10:30 or 11 o'clock. I was so exhausted. I would just sleep right on carpet on concrete for 4 hours because I was so worn out from the pain. But since then, I've set new PRs in squat and new PRs in my deadlift. So I am stronger in my squat and deadlift than I ever was before the back injury. Now, currently, I'm working through kind of some leg tears that I had from a meet 16 months ago. So I tore 3 muscles in my leg and strained the connective tissue of one of my hamstring muscles. So it's been a slow go, and I'm not quite back to being stronger than I was before the injuries yet. However, I do have positive belief that I will get back there. So, how have I been through some of these? And there's many more, by the way. But how have I been through some of these injuries and figured out how to kind of stay positive through them? How have I helped past clients stay positive through them? And here's going to be 5 tips for it. Okay? So, one thing I think to myself is, what would I be doing otherwise? So, if I wasn't working out to rehab this injury, I'd probably be working out anyhow. So, I don't feel like exercising, being active, is something that I'd be willing to let go of in my life. It's how I control my emotional and mental health. It's something I passionately enjoy. It's something I love to do. So I think to myself is, even if I wasn't rehabbing this injury, I would still want to train and work out. So why not train and work out to a way that's going to make me better anyhow? So that might be kind of more specific to people who do enjoy and love training, especially if it's a career. So I train, half my clients are personal trainers. So I train a lot of personal trainers, so it's their passion. So when they have an injury or anything like that, I tell them, hey, this is your chance to get better, to improve, and then what you learn from this, you can help others as well. So them being able to kind of share what they learn with other people is a great motivator. And I tell them, this is your passion, this is your dream, this is what you love to do. Will you be doing it anyhow? Why not work on rehab? So we might change our focus. Maybe somebody hurt their knee. So we might focus on, hey, like while we're doing leg rehab, knee rehab, can we get your bench up 20 pounds? So you pick other goals. So if you have somebody who has a strength-related issue, maybe they can still work on muscle size, or maybe they can still work on muscular endurance or leanness. So there's always going to be something that you can still focus on, something that you can still stay active and positive towards, and then just add the rehab as part of that whole progress. So that would be the idea, is if you're going to be working out anyhow, you might as well work out towards the rehab. So set other goals, find other things that motivate you maybe, if the rehab itself doesn't motivate you. But just include the rehab as part of the program, but stay active, stay moving, because you'd be staying active and staying moving anyhow. So don't run away from the problem. I know tons of people who've hurt their knee, and then they just bench only, do a whole bunch of upper body stuff, and they never address their legs. And it's just frustrating to me that they would give up on it. Like, oh, I've got a bad knee. You know how it is when you get older. And they're only in their 30s and 40s. I'm like, you dumbass, you're not old. So I can't believe people would give up on their physical ability until the day you die. I don't know. I don't understand why you would not want to have as much capacity over your body, as much control, as much ability as you could possibly have. So I think when your body dies, your soul starts dying. So the second you let your physical health go, everything starts feeling strange, everything starts feeling miserable. You don't want to move around as much, therefore you're not as active, you're not as fun. You don't go and try new experiences, and the end of life starts processing. So that might be overblowing it a little bit to some people, but I've seen that pattern so many times. I've been a personal trainer now for 18 years. So this is what I've done for 18 years of my life. Trained over 2,000 people. I recently did a count because I wanted to update our Instagram channel. And I've trained over 2,000 people actually. So I've seen it an enormous amount of times. So it's very, very, very important to stay active. Don't avoid your injury, address it. Maybe don't make it the sole factor of what you're addressing, like, oh, this is it, this is the only thing I'm going to focus on, because you'll probably burn out. So set some other goals around it, okay? But if you're going to be working out anyhow, why not aim to improve that injury? The second tip we have is to always stay learning, always trying new things, always seeking out new information, because to me that is very motivating. Because if you're constantly learning new things, there's constantly the possibility of something that can improve you, that can help the process along. So there's a powerlifting coach named Louis Simmons, and he has an analogy that I like. And it's his phrase, for example, is turning over every stone. So he tells people, if I told you there was $1 million under a stone outside in the parking lot, and you walked out in the parking lot and there was 1 million stones, wouldn't you turn over every damn stone trying to find that $1 million? And the answer is yes. You would turn one stone over, but you wouldn't just give up then. you would turn the next stone, and the next stone, and the next stone, and you keep turning stones to try to find that $1,000,000. So if you're always learning, if you're always trying to find new information, if you're always experimenting with new things, you're turning over stones. You're eventually going to find a stone that helps you along the way. So that's tip number 2, is to always stay learning, always seek out new information. So I've bought a ton of books on injury rehab and some other odds and ends on stuff that always helped me along I've even bought like a book about dry needling and learning how to dry needle myself. So you got to find ways to get better. You have to seek out new information. Always be learning, because then you'll always have the possibility of something coming along that can improve you. So that's another way to maintain a positive mindset through adversity, is to always stay learning. Always seek out new information. Okay, the third tip we have is short-term goals. So if you know the long term is a slow rehab process that isn't a ton of fun, can you set short-term goals that can motivate you in the short term? So can you have daily goals? Can you have weekly goals? Can you have monthly goals? So like I've told you, I'm working through a 16-month process of rehabbing my legs. Now, I've gone up and down in the process. So I had small little annoyances and small little injuries kind of along the way that pushed me up and pushed me back down. But my short-term goals is I have a squat goal every week that I try to kind of build upon or grow from in some way. I have different parameters for how I grow, so that way I have different definitions of success. But that is one of my things. I also have accessory exercises and workouts. So I have a workout a week where I just try new shit dedicated to the injuries and issues I have with my leg. I just try new stuff, look on Instagram, look on YouTube. If there's anything I think that could possibly help, I have a day a week where I just try that stuff. So that's a short-term goal, is the fun experimental things workout. I have the squat-based workout every week, and then I try to make sure I always stay stretching and moving around. So I have a daily goal where my right leg right now is the one that has the most tears in it. So every day when I'm demonstrating stuff for clients, I always make sure I use my right leg. So that way it's kind of like a daily goal, something I can think of per hour. Am I using my right leg? Am I building that thing? Am I able to make it stronger today? So those are daily goals, those are weekly goals, and then as those weekly goals add up throughout a month, you can compare one month to another month. So that's what you want to do, is have short-term goals rather than just looking at that big picture, the long road, the long haul. The fourth tip we have is to have a plan. So have a plan that you define the short-term goals, but understanding that the short-term goals add up to your long-term goal. So have a long-term plan, because that can help you maintain positivity, knowing that there is a path that you are following. So you're not just going in there every day and making shit up. You have a path, you know what you're supposed to do, you know step by step by step. Okay? So as much as you want to have short-term goals, you do want to have a long-term plan where the short-term goals accumulate towards the direction that you want. Make sure that it's going the way that you want it to go, so you will go where you want to get to. Okay? So you wouldn't start driving somewhere without an end destination. You don't want to start just working out and doing a rehab without an end destination. So you have to have a plan. Okay? Tip number 5 is connect with others. So find someone who understands, in person or online. Find stories that motivate you. Connect with other people. So you can do this by, like we said, in person. Find people in the gym. Talk to people in the gym. Talk to people in your local community. Maybe somebody else has had, a similar issue to yours. Maybe somebody else is rehabbing through something the same time you are. So you can just kind of share the process together. You can do that in person, and you can also do it online. So finding people, maybe there's a YouTube, star or someone who has good information, and you can hear their stories. Maybe they're traveling through kind of the same process as you. So I remember there was a video of Evan Centopani, who was a bodybuilder, and he had to get surgery on one of his quad muscles. So he showed his rehab process, and that's something that people can look back on now, kind of watch it even later on in life. They can watch it and see if they can get motivated by it by seeing what he did. So he would go into the gym with crutches some days just to train up a body. But he had to watch certain positions, he had to watch certain stresses. But looking to see someone else to share Okay, someone else who would understand you is something that absolutely helps. So having connection with others, having connection with stories. So when I used to kind of like struggle with maintaining the business when I first opened it, so I was training 50 hours in-person clients a week. I was writing all their nutrition plans, all their training plans. I had to do all the financial work for the gym. I had to do the janitorial work. I had to do the maintenance work. I had to do everything. Now, it was self-chosen, so I'm not, throwing out a pity party here. But that was an insane, insane amount of work. So I was sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night, then trying on the weekends, try to sleep 12, 16 hours at a time, just one big clump of sleep, and then hopefully that would take me throughout the rest of the week. So at that time, I was watching stories on ESPN, okay, called E60 series, and it was showing people going through adversity. Now, my adversity was running a business that was my dream, but at that time, it felt like a nightmare. So it's not important and it's not worth, there's really no value, I guess, in kind of saying, well, my pain isn't that serious, so I should just suck it up. Well, no, that's not really helpful usually. Usually it's better to you to acknowledge that you are having stress, that you are feeling challenged, and then finding a way to kind of motivate yourself through the challenge. Rather than trying to ignore it and devalue it, recognize it, and then work towards it. Okay, work with it. So that helped me a lot, was seeing like people had been through bigger things than that. So it helped me find strength because if somebody else could be strong, so could I. So it helps to connect with others. So those are our 5 tips. Just recognize you'd be working out or doing something active anyhow, so you might as well do rehab. So that's tip 1. Tip number 2 is always learning, turning over new stones. The more you learn, the more possibilities of improvement there are. Tip number 3 is short-term goals. Keep yourself motivated daily, weekly, monthly. Number 4 is have a long-term plan. Make sure those short-term goals add up to the long-term goal. And then number 5 is connect with others. Find people who understand. Find someone you can connect your story with and find power through. Okay? So, if you are having any trouble emotionally, mentally, as you're working through adversity, and you like the idea of some of the things we've named in this podcast, but you'd like to reach out and get some extra help, our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. We can help you come up with short-term goals. We can help you come up with a long-term plan. We can also just listen to your story. So whatever you need, okay, if you need new information, if you need some new ideas and stuff you could try, always reach out to us. So we're here to help. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. Just let us know what you need and we'll help you with it. Cool. If you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalirongym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.